Captain Li Wu-jin stood in the middle of the great council chamber. His boots made no sound on the smooth crystal floor that stretched out like a frozen lake beneath his feet. The chamber was huge, bigger than any building on Earth, with walls that curved up and up until they disappeared into darkness far above his head. Thousands of lights twinkled like stars, but they were not stars. They were the eyes of alien beings watching him from their floating platforms. Li had been in this chamber many times before, but today felt different. Today, the air itself seemed heavy with anger and fear. The aliens whispered to each other in languages that sounded like wind through leaves or water flowing over rocks. Their voices mixed together into a sound like distant thunder. Behind Li stood Commander Park, Sora, her hand resting on a small black box that contained the most dangerous secrets in the galaxy. She was young for a commander, only 35 years old, but her eyes had seen things that made her look much older. Her uniform was clean and pressed, but Li could see the small scars on her hands from years of battle. The ethereal Prime floated in the center of the chamber like a giant soap bubble filled with lightning. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once, making the air vibrate with each word. Human Captain Li Wu-jin, the Prime said, "You have come before this council 5 times in the past year. Each time you offer your military forces to help fight the Devourers. Each time we tell you the same thing: your methods are too violent, your weapons are too dangerous. Your people are too quick to choose war over peace." Li nodded slowly. He had expected this, the same speech every time. The same excuses, the same fear of human power. "We are a civilized galaxy," the Prime continued. "We have lived in peace for 10,000 years. We solve our problems with words, not weapons. We negotiate, not destroy. We find harmony, not create chaos. But the Devourers are not interested in your words," Li said, his voice calm and steady. "They do not want to negotiate. They want to consume everything living in this galaxy. They have already destroyed 12 worlds in the past 6 months. How many more will die while you hold committee meetings?" The chamber erupted in angry voices. A creature that looked like a giant praying mantis clicked its mandibles rapidly. The insectoid delegate always got nervous when humans talked about fighting. A being made of living crystal chimed like broken glass, expressing its displeasure. Several bird-like aliens ruffled their feathers and squawked in their native language. Silence, the Prime commanded, and the chamber fell quiet. "The Devourers are a problem, yes, but they are not a problem that requires human solutions. We have other ways." "What ways?" Park Sora asked, stepping forward. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. "You sent the Aquatic Federation to negotiate with them. The Devourers boiled their oceans and ate their children. You sent the Crystalline Collective to offer them empty worlds. The Devourers shattered their homeworld and consumed the pieces. You sent the gaseous beings to communicate through electromagnetic signals. The Devourers absorbed their energy and grew stronger." "That was unfortunate," the reptilian delegate said. His tongue flicked out to taste the air, but the air around Li and Park tasted of danger, and the alien pulled back. "Those casualties were regrettable but acceptable. We cannot risk unleashing human violence across the galaxy." Li felt his anger rising but kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing emotion to these beings was seen as proof of human savagery. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It projected a holographic map of the galaxy showing the current situation. Red zones marked where the Devourers had already struck. Yellow zones showed where they were currently attacking. Green zones were still safe, but there were fewer green zones. Every day the map updated in real time. As Li spoke, "Kepler 442, he said, pointing to a red zone. 30 million dead in 3 days. Your peaceful solution was to evacuate the planet and let the Devourers have it. New Centauri." Another red zone appeared. 20 million dead in 6 hours. Your peaceful solution was to declare it a lost cause and move the survivors to refugee camps. The hologram showed ship after ship fleeing from system to system, always running, never fighting. The alien delegates watched in uncomfortable silence as the red zone spread like cancer across the galaxy. Ross 128. Li continued. "Another red zone. 8 million dead. The Devourers consumed the entire star. Your peaceful solution was to form a committee to study stellar consumption patterns." "Stop," the Prime said, its energy form flickering with agitation. "We know the casualties, we know the losses, but we also know what happens when humans are given permission to wage war. You destroy everything you cannot control. Your violent nature. Lee looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. Some showed fear, some showed disgust, a few showed something that might have been sympathy, but not many. For 50 years, he said, my people have served this galaxy. We have fought your wars, we have died for your causes, we have bled on worlds whose names we cannot even pronounce. We have been your soldiers, your guardians, your attack dogs whenever you needed something destroyed, but we have also been your teachers, your healers, your builders. When the Zephyrian plague threatened to wipe out their entire species, it was human doctors who found the cure. When the Mollusk Confederation needed to terraform their new homeworld, it was human engineers who built the atmosphere processors. When the gas giant collective needed protection from solar flares, it was human scientists who designed the shield generators. The Prime's energy form brightened. That was different. Those were peaceful applications of human knowledge. No, Lee said they were applications of human knowledge, period. The same knowledge that creates weapons also creates medicines. The same technology that builds warships also builds hospitals. The same minds that plan battles also plan rescues. You cannot have one without the other. A new voice spoke from the shadows. A creature that looked like a walking tree with too many arms stepped forward. The botanical collective had remained silent until now. Their representative spoke. In a voice like wind through branches, human captain, you speak of service, but we remember your wars. We remember how you fought each other for centuries before you reached the stars. We remember the weapons you built, the cities you destroyed, the millions of your own kind you killed. How can we trust beings who wage war against themselves? Lee smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Yes, we fought wars, we killed each other, we made mistakes, but we learned from them, we grew, we changed, we became better than we were, and that is something you will never understand. Why? The tree creature asked. Because you never had to change. Lee said, you never faced extinction, you never had to choose between fighting and dying, you never had to look at yourselves in the mirror and decide what kind of beings you wanted to be. You have been safe and comfortable and peaceful for so long that you have forgotten what it means to struggle. The chamber fell silent. Lee could hear the soft humming of the ventilation systems, the distant sound of ships docking at the station outside. But inside the chamber there was only silence. The Prime spoke again. Its voice was quieter, now less commanding. What do you want? Human Lee looked at Park Sora. She nodded and handed him the black box. He held it up so all the delegates could see it. This contains the command codes for every human military installation in the galaxy. Every defense station, every weapons platform, every shield generator, every piece of technology that keeps your world safe. It also contains the self-destruct codes. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. The floating platforms wobbled as their occupants gestured wildly. The Prime's energy form flared bright enough to hurt the eyes. You cannot, the Prime said. You cannot simply abandon your responsibilities, our responsibilities. Lee said, we're to protect the galaxy, but you have made it clear that our protection is not wanted. You have called us violent. You have called us dangerous. You have called us barbarians, so we are leaving. But who will protect us? The reptilian delegate asked. Lee shrugged. Find a peaceful solution. As Lee and Park turned to leave the chamber, the Prime's voice followed them. What about the Devourers? What about the threat to all life in the galaxy? Lee stopped at the great doors that led out of the chamber. He turned back to look at the hundreds of aliens staring down at him with fear and anger and desperate hope. The Devourers are your problem now, he said. Good luck with your committee meetings. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder as they walked down the long corridor toward the docking bay. Park Sora finally spoke. Do you think we are making the right choice? Lee was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, they will learn. When the Devourers come for them, when their peaceful solutions fail, when their worlds burn, they will understand what we have been trying to tell them. Then it will be too late. The human ships began leaving the next day. Captain Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the massive cargo ship New Seoul, watching the last lights go out on Research Station Harmony below. The station had been home to 50,000 human scientists and their families for 20 years now. It was empty like a skull with no eyes staring up at the stars. The evacuation had taken 3 months. Every human citizen, every soldier, every trader, every scientist was coming home to Earth. The galaxy had made its choice, and so had humanity, sir. Communications Officer Yoon Nari, called from her station. We are receiving another transmission from the Zephyrian government. They want to know if we will leave the weather control systems running. Kim laughed, but there was no humor in it the same. Weather control systems they complained about last year, the ones they said were ruining their natural climate patterns, tell them to use their traditional methods. Kim said they managed just fine for thousands of years before we arrived. Through the massive viewing window, Kim could see alien ships gathering around the abandoned human facilities like scavengers around a fresh kill. They were already trying to board the stations, trying to steal human technology, but Kim knew they would find nothing useful. The self-destruct codes had been activated on all sensitive equipment. Dr. Choi Min-ji, the head of the science division, joined Kim at the observation deck. Her face was tired from months of overseeing the evacuation, but her eyes were angry. The Crystalline Collective just offered us 10 times our normal salary to stay and maintain the terraforming equipment on their outer rim colonies, she said. Kim shook his head. Too late. They had their chance to treat us with respect instead. They treated us like hired help, like guard dogs they could chain up when they did not need us. But, Sir Nari said from her station, some of the alien governments are saying they will pay any price for us to stay. They are offering citizenship rights, full membership in their local councils. Sin turned to look at her. Nari was young, barely 25, but she had grown up on these frontier stations. She had alien friends down on the planet, people she had known since childhood. I know it is hard, he said gently, but they are scared now. In 6 months, when the immediate danger passes, they will go back to calling us violent and dangerous. They will go back to treating us like weapons instead of people. The ship shuddered slightly as the massive engines prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Kim looked one last time at the planet below. Harmony had been a beautiful world with purple seas and silver forests. The humans had helped the native species recover from a plague that had nearly wiped them out. They had built hospitals and schools and research centers. Now the natives were on their own. Sir Nari said quietly, long-range sensors are detecting movement in the outer system. 3 ships approaching fast. Kim frowned, put them on screen. The main display showed 3 sleek vessels moving toward them at high speed. They were aquatic Federation ships built for speed rather than combat. They are requesting permission to dock. Nari reported their message, says they have important information about devourer movements. Kim considered this. The Aquatic Federation had been one of the few alien governments that had treated humans with something approaching respect. Their dolphin-like leaders had often invited human officers to their underwater cities. Grant them permission, Kim said, but full security protocols. They dock at Bay 7 only 20 minutes later. Ambassador Kekla No swam into the meeting room in a mobile water tank, the dolphin-like being clicked and whistled in distress before the translation device could process his words. Captain Kim, he said through the translator, the Devourers have attacked the Coral Nebula system. They consumed 3 of our water worlds in less than 2 days. Our defense fleets could not even slow them down. Kim felt a chill run down his spine. The Coral Nebula was deep in Federation space, far from the previous Devourer attacks. How many casualties? He asked. Ed Kiklano's sonar clicks became more agitated. 800 million dead. The Devourers have new ships, Captain, different designs. They seem to be adapting to our defenses. Dr. Choi leaned forward. What kind of adaptations? The ambassador's tank bubbled nervously. They are using our own technology against us, the plasma shields we bought from human manufacturers years ago. The Devourers somehow learned to drain their power and turn it into weapons. Kim and Choi exchanged glances. Human plasma shield technology was supposed to be impossible to reverse engineer. The aliens had been told this many times, but apparently the Devourers had found a way. Captain Keklano continued, the Federation Council has authorized me to make an offer. We will give you anything you want: full citizenship rights, territory, resources, access to our most advanced technology. Just please help us stop the Devourers. Kim was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the millions of aquatic beings who had just died. He thought about the children in the underwater cities who would grow up without parents. He thought about the beautiful coral reefs that had been turned to ash. I am sorry, he said finally, but the decision has been made. All humans are returning to Earth. We are not the galaxy's protectors anymore, but you are the only ones who Can fight them, Keklano pleaded. Your weapons, your tactics, your experience. The Devourers fear human military might. They should have thought of that before they kicked us out, Kim replied. The ambassador's tank grew quiet. The only sound was the soft bubbling of the water recycling system. There is something else, Keklano said finally. The Galactic Council has been trying to access the defense grids around the core worlds, the human-built systems that protect the most important planets in the galaxy. And Kim asked, though he already knew the answer. They cannot activate them without human authorization codes. The grids are shutting down one by one, Kim nodded. That was intentional. Every piece of human technology in the galaxy had been designed with human control systems. The aliens had never bothered to learn how the systems worked. They had just used them. How long before the core worlds are completely undefended? Kim asked. 6 months, Keklano replied. Maybe less. Kim stood and walked to the viewing window. The last human transport ships were jumping to hyperspace one by one. Soon the new soul would be alone in this system. Ambassador, he said without turning around, your people treated humans better than most. We respected the Federation. We considered you friends. Keklano's clicks grew hopeful. Then you will help us. Kim turned back to face the tank. No. But when the Devourers come, when your peaceful solutions fail, when your worlds burn, remember that we offered to help. You chose committees over action. You chose politics over protection. Ambassador Sonar went silent. There is one more thing, Kim said. The humans built more than just weapons and shields in this galaxy. We built hospitals that saved millions of lives. We built farms that fed billions. We built power plants that gave light to dark worlds. All of that technology is shutting down within a year. Kim continued. Most of the galaxy will be back to the technology level it had before humans arrived. No more human medicine, no more human engineering, no more human science. You wanted to be free of human violence. Now you are free of everything else. Keklano floated in his tank without moving for several minutes. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. What have we done? Kim felt a moment of pity for the alien leader. But the moment passed. You made your choice, he said. Now you live with the consequences. An hour later, the new soul jumped to hyperspace carrying the last humans out of the Andromeda sector behind them. The galaxy began to realize what it had lost. On a dozen worlds, hospital equipment stopped working. Terraforming systems shut down. Power grids failed. Communication networks went dark. The galaxy that had rejected human protection was about to learn what protection really meant. In the depths of space, the Devourers sensed the change. They had been held back by human weapons and human tactics for 50 years. Now the barriers were falling. The real invasion was about to begin. Admiral Bei Haiyan-Wu stared at the reports covering his desk in the underground command center on Luna. Each piece of paper told the same story. The galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone had predicted. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left alien space. 6 months since humanity had turned its back on the galaxy that had rejected them. Now the consequences were spreading like poison through the stars. Sir, Lieutenant Song Yujin hurried into the office carrying another stack of urgent messages. The Aquatic Federation is reporting total collapse of their outer rim defenses. The Devourers have consumed 4 more water worlds in the past week. Bei looked up from the star charts he had been studying. What about their famous dolphin warriors, the ones who were supposed to sing the Devourers into submission? Yujin's face was grim. The dolphins are extinct, sir. The entire species was wiped out when the Devourers boiled the oceans of their homeworld. 3 billion years of evolution gone in 3 hours. Bei felt a cold weight in his stomach. He had served with dolphin officers during the border wars. They had been brave, intelligent beings who understood the cost of peace better than most of the galaxy they had appreciated. Human sacrifice. What else? He asked. Merchant Guild is reporting complete breakdown of interstellar trade. Yujin continued. Without human escort fleets, piracy has increased by 800%. The insectoid swarms are claiming entire systems as their hunting grounds. The gaseous beings are being absorbed by energy parasites. Bei stood and walked to the large holographic display that dominated the center of the room. The 3-dimensional map of the galaxy showed the current situation in painful detail. Red zones marked Devourer territory spreading like cancer through the spiral arms. Yellow zones showed areas under attack or in complete chaos. Green zones for safe territory were shrinking every day. Sir, Yujin said quietly, their Is something else. The ethereal prime is dead. Bay turned sharply. What happened? According to reports from the core worlds, the prime tried to negotiate with the devourer fleet. The devourers absorbed its energy matrix and used it to power their weapons. The entire ethereal collective has gone dark. The beings of pure energy had been among the most arrogant members of the Galactic Council. They had looked down on humans as primitive creatures, driven by base emotions. Now their ancient wisdom had been consumed by monsters. They refused to fight, and the Council's response to all this, Bay asked, they are forming another committee to study the situation. Eugen replied. Bay laughed, but there was no humor in it. A committee? The galaxy is burning, and they want to form a committee. The door to the command center opened and Captain Zhang Hairin entered. She looked tired like everyone else in the lunar command center, but her eyes were alert. Admiral, she said, we just received a coded transmission from the synthetic collective. They want to arrange secret negotiations about what they want to hire human mercenaries. Hairin replied unofficially, of course. They say the devourers are targeting their manufacturing worlds next, and their robot armies are not designed for this kind of warfare. Bay considered this. The synthetic collective had been created by humans a century ago. Artificial intelligences that had gained independence and formed their own society. They had been neutral in most galactic politics, but they had always maintained friendly relations with their creators. What did President Rowe say when you contacted Earthy? Rin smiled. The president said to tell them the same thing. The council told us find a peaceful solution. The three officers stood in silence for a moment, watching the holographic display update with new disaster reports. A star system went dark as the devourers consumed its sun. A trade route collapsed as pirate fleets overwhelmed the merchant ships. A colony world sent out a final distress call before communication was lost. Sir Eugen said, have you seen the refugee reports? Bay nodded. 40 million beings had fled to the edges of human space, hoping for sanctuary. They were camping in makeshift settlements on asteroids and dead moons just outside the Sol system's defense perimeter, waiting for humans to show mercy. The orders from Earth were clear. No alien vessel would be permitted to enter human space. Every request for asylum was denied. Every plea for help was ignored. The galaxy had made its choice, but Sir Eugen continued. Some of these refugees are families. We worked with scientists who helped develop human technology. Soldiers who fought beside us. Bay's jaw tightened. That makes it harder, not easier. If we let them in, word will spread. Every being in the galaxy will come running to human space. We will be right back where we started, protecting everyone. While they complain about our methods, a new alarm began sounding in the command center. The main display flashed urgent red warnings. Sir Hairin called out. Long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational distortions in the Perseus arm. The devourers are not just consuming planets anymore. Put it on screen, Bay ordered. The display showed something that made all three officers step back in shock. The devourers had surrounded a star and were draining its energy, causing it to collapse into a neutron star. The explosion would destroy everything within 50 light years. They are turning stars into weapons, Eugen whispered. Bay felt his blood turn to ice. In the old days, human science teams would have detected this kind of threat months in advance. Human fleets would have been dispatched to stop it. Human weapons would have driven the devourers away. Now there was no one to stop them, Sir Hairin said, checking her instruments. The star collapse will create a chain reaction. 2 more stars in that system will go supernova within the next year. How many inhabited worlds in the affected area? Bay asked. 47 worlds. Eugen replied. 8 billion beings total. Bay stared at the display as it showed the expanding destruction. The devourers had evolved beyond simple consumption. They were now using stellar engineering as a weapon, turning the galaxy's own stars against its inhabitants. At this rate, he said, how long before they reach human space? The computer calculated the trajectories and expansion rates. 40 years, or maybe less, if they continue to accelerate. Their stellar manipulation. Bay felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. 40 years seemed like a long time, but it was not. The devourers would eventually reach Earth, would eventually threaten humanity itself. All of their isolation would mean nothing if the galaxy itself was destroyed. Sir Eugen said quietly, should we contact Earth Command about this new development? Bay was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the millions of beings dying in the outer systems. He thought About the children in the refugee camps, he thought about the choice humanity had made. Yes. He said finally, contact President Rowe, tell her that the situation has changed. The Devourers are not just a threat to the galaxy anymore, they are a threat to the universe itself, and if she asks what we recommend, Bay looked at the spreading red zones on the display, at the dying stars and the fleeing refugees. Tell her it may be time to discuss our options. The transmission to Earth was sent that night. By morning everything would change. The Great Council chamber looked like a graveyard. Now half the floating platforms were empty, their former occupants either dead or fled to distant systems. The remaining delegates huddled together in small groups, whispering in frightened voices, while emergency lights cast strange shadows on the crystal wall. Supreme Counselor Oh Seung-ho sat alone in the observer section of the chamber. He was the last human representative left in council space, recalled from retirement on Earth to witness what everyone knew would be the final session of the Galactic Council. Chamber that had once held thousands of delegates now contained fewer than 200. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was dying. The Ethereal Prime was gone, consumed by the Devourers 3 months ago. The Aquatic Federation had lost their homeworld. The Crystalline Collective had shattered into fragments. The Botanical Collective had been burned to ash. The insectoid swarms had turned to cannibalism. Only the core worlds remained, and they were failing fast. The avian representative stood on his platform, his once beautiful feathers now molted and gray from stress. The human-built defense grid around the core worlds is failing. He announced in a voice like breaking glass, we cannot access the repair protocols without human authorization codes. The few remaining delegates murmured among themselves in various languages of despair and fear. Then we demand those codes, shrieked what was left of the ethereal collective, a small flickering light that had once been part of the great prime. The galaxy is dying. Oh Seung-ho finally stood up slowly like an old man, though he was only 55 years old. You demanded that we leave, he said quietly. You called us warmongers and barbarians. You said our methods were too violent for your civilized galaxy. This is different. The crystalline delegate chimed, their voice like breaking glass. The Devourers threaten all life in the galaxy. This is about survival, not politics. Oh laughed, but there was no humor in it. They threatened all life 8 months ago, too. The difference is that now you are scared. Now you are the ones dying. The reptilian delegate's tongue flicked out nervously. We may have been hasty in our judgment. Perhaps humanity's methods have merit after all. Perhaps, oh repeated, perhaps your peaceful methods failed. Your committees failed. Your negotiations failed. Your species are going extinct. And you say perhaps what? Do you want the tiny remnant of the ethereal prime? Demanded resources, territory, technology. Name your price. Oh Seung-ho gathered his papers and stood to leave. We wanted what we always wanted, he said, to be treated as equals, not as attack dogs. You unleash when convenient and chain up when the danger passes, but we are offering you equality now, the avian representative pleaded. Full membership in the council leadership positions, control over galactic defense. Too late, oh, said the galaxy made its choice. You chose to reject human protection when it was freely offered. Now you want to buy it back when you are desperate. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Half the stations in the galaxy had gone dark in the past month. The Devourers were consuming everything in their path. Please, the reptilian delegate said in a broken voice. Our children are dying. Our worlds are burning. We were wrong. We admit it. We were wrong. Oh stopped at the chamber doors and turned back. Yes, he said, you were wrong, but being wrong is not the same as being sorry. You are not apologizing for how you treated us. You are just scared that we will not save youth. Avian delegate's feathers ruffled in desperation. What must we do to prove we have changed? Oh looked around the chamber at the empty platforms, at the frightened faces, at the dying lights of a once great civilization. You want to know what you must do, he said. Then I will tell you. Beg. The word hung in the air like a curse. Excuse me, the crystalline delegate chimed. Oh stepped back into the chamber, his voice growing stronger. Get down from your platforms. Come down here and beg. Admit that you were wrong. Admit that human methods were right. Admit that your precious peaceful solutions were worthless against real threats. The delegates looked at each other in shock. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, no one had ever been asked to leave their ceremonial platforms. We cannot, the avian representative said it goes against all protocol. Then you do not want our help badly enough, O replied. For several minutes nobody moved. The chamber was so quiet that O could hear his own heartbeat. Then slowly the avian delegate stepped off his platform. His talons clicked on the crystal floor as he walked toward the center of the chamber. The reptilian delegate followed, then the crystalline being, then the others. One by one they abandoned their positions of authority and came down to stand on the same level. As the avian representative was the first to speak. We were wrong, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Human methods were right. We need your help. O looked at the small group of broken leaders, the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Reduced to begging for help from the species they had rejected. Not good enough, he said. You need to mean it. The avian delegate's head drooped. Our species is dying. The devourers consumed our homeworld yesterday. 3 billion years of evolution wiped out in 6 hours. Our children, our culture, our entire civilization is gone. The reptilian delegate stepped forward. My people were proud. We thought we were better than humans. We thought violence was beneath us. Now my homeworld is ash and my species numbers less than 10,000. One by one they told their stories of loss and destruction. The crystalline delegate spoke of worlds shattered into dust. The gaseous beings described their essence being absorbed by monsters. The plant creatures wailed about forests turned to carbon. O listened to it all without emotion. When they finished he was quiet for a long moment. Your suffering is real, he said finally. Your losses are terrible, but you are not sorry for rejecting us. You are sorry that rejecting us had consequences. That is not true, the avian delegate protested. O shook his head. Then why did you wait until now to apologize? Why did you wait until your worlds were burning to admit you were wrong? If you truly believed human methods were right, you would have said so. When we offered to help, the chamber fell silent again. The truth is, O continued, you still think we are violent barbarians. You still think our methods are distasteful. You just want us to use those methods to save you. Then when the danger passes, you will go back to calling us monsters. O the crystalline delegate chimed. We have learned, we have changed. O walked to the center of the chamber and looked each delegate in the eye. Would you welcome human military bases on your worlds? Would you allow human officers to command your fleets? Would you accept human governors on your colonies? The delegates looked at each other uncertainly. I thought so. O said, you want us to save you, but you do not want us to stay. You want us to kill the monsters, then go away like good little attack dogs. He's the avian delegate said, we are desperate. Our species will be extinct within a year. O nodded. I know, but desperation is not the same as respect. You do not respect us, you just need us. As he walked toward the chamber doors, the reptilian delegate called out, what will it take? What must we do? O stopped, but did not turn around. Nothing, he said. There is nothing you can do. The decision has been made. The humans are not coming back, but the galaxy will die without you, the avian delegate cried. Then it will die. O said, the galaxy chose this path. Now it must walk it to the end. The great doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder in the chamber. The remaining delegates stood in stunned silence. The greatest civilization in galactic history was ending, not with glory, but with the quiet click of a door closing outside. The chamber. O Sung-ho walked to his ship. His final report to Earth would be brief. The Galactic Council was finished. The galaxy was lost. The age of alien civilization was over. Whether humanity would build something new from the ashes remained to be seen. Fleet Admiral Han Kyung-min stood in her office high above the lunar surface, watching the Earth turn slowly in the darkness. Beyond the blue and white marble of home, the stars looked cold and distant. Each point of light represented a system that had once been under human protection. Now they were on their own. The news feeds from the galaxy made for grim reading. The Galactic Council had officially dissolved after the Devourers reached the core worlds. The great capitals of galactic civilization were now radioactive wastelands. The surviving alien populations were scattered across the galaxy in refugee fleets with nowhere to go. Ma'am. Colonel Lim Dayun entered the office carrying a stack of reports. Refugee ships are gathering at the outer boundary of our defense perimeter. They are requesting asylum. How many? Hen asked without turning from the window. 70 million at last. Count Lim replied. The avian homeworld fell 3 days ago. The crystalline collective's primary manufacturing World was consumed yesterday. The Botanical Collective sent us their final transmission this morning. Their entire species is extinct. Han felt a familiar weight in her chest. She had served alongside many of these species, had called some of them friends, but the orders from Earth were clear, and she understood the reasons for them. What is the mood among the refugees? Desperate, Lim said. Some are offering to trade their entire technological databases for safe passage, others are volunteering to serve as indentured servants. Their children are starving in those ships. Admiral Han finally turned from the window. She was a career military officer who had seen combat in 3 different wars, but the reports from the refugee camps made her stomach turn. Any word from Earth Command? President Rowe has confirmed the policy, Lim replied. No alien vessel will be permitted to enter human space, no exceptions, no asylum, no humanitarian aid. Han nodded. It was harsh but necessary. If they opened the borders even slightly, word would spread across the galaxy. Every surviving alien would come running to human space. The cycle would begin again. Humanity would be back to protecting everyone while being treated like hired help. Ma'am, Lim continued. There's something else. Long-range sensors are detecting massive gravitational anomalies in the outer rim. The Devourers are not just consuming planets anymore. Show me. The holographic display in the center of the office flickered to life, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. The red zones marking Devourer territory had spread like cancer through the spiral arms, but now there were new markers. Purple zones showing stellar manipulation. They are destabilizing stars, Lim explained, turning them into supernovas and using the energy to fuel their expansion. At their current rate, they will consume the entire galaxy within 30 years. Han stared at the display in shock. Even if we sealed our borders completely, how long before the expanding destruction reaches human space? The computer has run the calculations, Lim replied. 40 years. Maybe less if they continue to accelerate their stellar engineering. Han felt the blood drain from her face. 40 years seemed like a long time, but it was not. The Devourers would eventually reach Earth, would eventually threaten humanity itself. All of their isolation would mean nothing if the galaxy itself was destroyed. Imam, Lim said quietly. There is a coded transmission from Admiral Bayon. Luna Command. President Rowe is calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. Han looked one more time at the Earth turning peacefully below them. In 40 years, that blue marble might be the last world left in the galaxy. Send a reply, she said. I will be there within the hour. The meeting was held in the deepest bunker beneath the lunar surface. The Defense Council consisted of the highest-ranking military officers in human space, along with key government officials and scientists. President Rosumi sat at the head of the table, her face grave. The situation is worse than we thought, she began. The Devourers have evolved beyond simple consumption. They are now using stellar engineering as a weapon, turning the galaxy's own stars against its inhabitants. Admiral Bay stood and activated the holographic display. The same purple zones that Han had seen in her office now filled the center of the room. At their current rate of expansion, the Devourers will reach human space within 40 years, he said. Even if we remain completely isolated, even if we hide in the Sol system, the expanding stellar destruction will eventually reach us. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. Their isolation was not protection, it was just a delayed on High One. The chief scientist spoke up. We have been monitoring the Devourer expansion patterns. Their technology appears to be adapting and evolving. They are learning from each species they consume. What does that mean, President Rowe asked. It means that every day we wait, they become stronger, Dr. On replied. They are absorbing the knowledge and capabilities of entire civilizations. Soon they may be too powerful for even human technology to stop. General Park Minho leaned forward in his chair. Are you suggesting we should have intervened earlier? Dr. On nodded. If we had acted 8 months ago, when the Council first rejected our help, we might have been able to stop them in the Outer Rim. Now, they have consumed dozens of advanced civilizations and incorporated their technologies. President Rowe looked around the table at the faces of her advisors. What are our options? We could try to negotiate, Admiral Bay suggested. With monsters that consume entire species, has shook her head. There is no negotiating with the Devourers. They do not want territory or resources. They want to consume everything we could run. Dr. On said there are other galaxies We could evacuate Earth and the colonies, find a new home. President Rowe was quiet. For a moment, how many people could we evacuate? Maybe 100 million, Dr. Ann replied. The rest of humanity would have to be left behind. Unacceptable. Han said, we do not abandon 8 billion people. Then what do you suggest? General Park asked. Han stood and walked to the holographic display. She studied the red and purple zones, showing the extent of devourer territory. We go back, she said quietly. The room erupted in protests. Admiral Bay pounded his fist on the table. The galaxy rejected us. Why should we save beings who treated us like attack dogs? Because if we do not, there will be no galaxy left to save. Han replied, because the devourers will eventually reach Earth anyway, because running away just means we die slower, but they will just go back to treating us like weapons when the danger passes. General Park protested. Han turned to face the council. Then we make sure they cannot. What do you mean? President Rowe asked. Han looked at each face around the table. We do not go back as the galaxy's protectors, we go back as its conquerors. The room fell silent. The old galactic order is dead. Han continued. The council is dissolved. The great civilizations have fallen. The survivors are scattered and helpless. If we act now, we can save what is left of the galaxy, but on our terms, and those terms are General Park asked human leadership of all surviving worlds, human military governors on every planet, human technology and human methods for defense, no more committees, no more debate, no more rejection of human protection. Dr. An leaned forward. That would make us an empire. Han nodded. Yes, it would. The galaxy had its chance at freedom. They chose to reject our help. Now they get our rule. President Rowe was quiet for several minutes. Everyone waited for her decision. How long to prepare the fleet? She asked. Finally, 3 months, Admiral Bay replied. We will need to recall all ships, modify them for extended combat operations, develop new weapons for fighting the devourers, and if the surviving aliens refuse to accept human rule, General Park asked, then they can face the devourers alone. Han said, but I do not think they will refuse. They are too desperate, too broken. They will accept any terms that offer survival. President Rowe stood. The decision is made. We return to the galaxy not as protectors but as conquerors. The age of human charity is over. The age of human dominance begins. The orders went out that night. Within a week, the greatest military mobilization in human history was underway. The galaxy that had rejected human protection was about to receive human conquest, whether they wanted it or not. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm made of metal and fire. 800 ships appeared at once, their hulls gleaming with new armor, their weapons ports glowing with barely contained energy. At the center of the formation flew the massive dreadnought, indomitable, its hull scarred from 1,000 battles, but its spirit unbroken. Admiral Quan Jae-sung stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the tactical display update with target information. The devourers had consumed 80% of the galaxy in the year since humanity had withdrawn. Only scattered pockets of civilization remained huddled around dying stars. Like survivors of a great flood, Sir Commander Shinbyo-ra called from the weapons station. All ships report ready for combat. The new quantum torpedoes are armed and targeted. Enemy formations detected at bearing 27 Mark IV. How many ships? Jae-sung asked. 300 devourer vessels, Bio-ra replied, plus 15 of their new stellar manipulation platforms. Jae-sung nodded. The devourers had grown stronger since their last encounter with human forces. They had absorbed the technology and knowledge of dozens of species. Their ships were larger, more advanced, more dangerous, but they had never faced humanity. When humanity was truly angry, signal the fleet, he ordered. This is not a rescue mission. This is not a peacekeeping operation. This is war. The first wave of human ships dove toward the devourer formation like hawks falling on prey. The new weapons that human scientists had developed during their isolation lit up the darkness with beams of pure destruction. Quantum torpedoes tore through devourer shields as if they were made of paper. The devourers fought back with weapons stolen from consumed civilizations, crystalline energy beams that could shatter planets, aquatic sonic weapons that could boil seas, gaseous energy drains that could absorb the life force of entire worlds. But human ships danced through the enemy fire like deadly angels. Their pilots had trained for this moment for months. Every maneuver, every tactic, every strategy had been perfected in secret. The galaxy that had rejected human military methods was about to see what those methods could really accomplish. Biora reported the experimental weapon is ready for deployment. Dr. N reports all systems are green. Jae-sung looked at the tactical display. The Devourers had formed a protective shell around their central intelligence, a massive biological construct that coordinated their entire species. It was the size of a small moon and protected by thousands of smaller ships. Deploy the Starkiller, he ordered. The Starkiller missile was humanity's most terrible weapon. It could destabilize stellar cores, turn stars into supernovas, or collapse them into black holes. The galaxy had feared human weapons, but they had never seen what humans could build when they were truly desperate. The missile streaked through space faster than light itself. It passed through the Devourer formation like a ghost, ignoring their attempts to intercept it. When it reached the central intelligence, it detonated with the force of a dying star. The explosion was visible from 1,000 light-years away. The Devourer central intelligence burned like a sun for 3 seconds before collapsing into nothingness. When the light faded, the entire Devourer fleet was drifting dead in space, sir. Biora said quietly, all enemy ships have gone silent. Enemy formations are breaking up. Jae-sung watched the display as 300 Devourer vessels began to tear themselves apart. Without the central intelligence to coordinate them, they were just mindless machines, consuming everything including each other's signal. All ships, he ordered. The primary target is destroyed. Begin cleanup operations. The battle was over in less than an hour. The Devourers that had threatened to consume the galaxy had been eliminated by human weapons and human tactics. The stellar manipulation platforms were destroyed. The remaining Devourer ships were hunted down and eliminated one by one when the last enemy vessel was destroyed. Jae-sung received a transmission from the remnants of the Galactic Council Admiral Kwan. The voice was weak and desperate. This is acting Prime Minister Valkaram of the Surviving Worlds Coalition. We offer our surrender. Jae-sung smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You are not in